Hello and welcome to the Flatback 3 podcast. My name is Toby Wellington and I am today delighted to be joined by Chippenham Town's first choice goalkeeper, Will Henry. We're going to be going over some information and some questions with Will, but first, before we do that, please remember to follow us on Instagram, subscribe on YouTube and listen to us on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts from. But first and foremost, Will, welcome to the podcast. Pleasure to have you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Oh, delighted. So, Will, obviously, first choice keeper at Chippenham Town, who are absolutely flying in the Conference South this season, or the Vanarama National League South, as it is now. Yeah. So, talk to us a little bit first and foremost about playing for Chippenham, how you're finding playing for the club, and what's clicked this season, because you're obviously doing much better than Chippenham have done in recent years.
Yeah, so obviously for me on a personal level, I'm happy to be playing every week. I think I've played every minute of every game so far this season, and it's for my own personal development. It's been brilliant to play that many games over the course of this season so far, because I've not had that for a long time. And the club have been brilliant with me coming into the building, the manager as well, and all the staff, and we've thoroughly enjoyed it. And I think that's shown on our performances and our results as a team. We've got a great squad, not the biggest of squads, but it's a great squad, tight-knit, and all the lads get on with each other. And I think, again, that shows on the pitch.
Absolutely. I mean, yesterday you drew 1-1, home game. That must have been interesting because we're on the weekend of the storm. How was the wind playing part in that game? Were your kicks going anywhere or not?
Well, they were going somewhere, definitely. There was a few that I think flew off out of play just because of the wind. But no, it was a classic tale of a game of two halves. First half, we're down the slope with the wind. So it was pretty much all us, and then second half was just basically defending. But obviously, when conditions are like that with the wind, especially how strong it's been over the last couple of days, it was a tough game of football, to say the least.
Absolutely, I can imagine it wasn't the best, and obviously the wind can get into Chippenham's ground. But the ground obviously has got a good reputation in the league for being one that is a very good surface. How have you found, obviously, like the club in general, obviously the facilities, the coaching staff, and obviously the manager as well?
Yeah, so to be fair, our pitch has held up quite well this year compared to a few others in our league. It's obviously getting to that stage of the season now where there is a bit of wear and tear on it. But no, the club in general, all the staff, the chairman, everyone has been fantastic with me personally. They're all good people. They're all genuine people. And they've looked after me since day one, since I've come into the building. Obviously, I knew most of them from previous spells when I've been on loan there. But no, obviously all the staff, obviously the manager, Mike Cook, he's been top class with me since bringing me into the building. I've worked with him before at Gloucester when I've had loan spells there. And he's really looked after me this season. And again, that shows, I think, in my performances because I'm just thoroughly enjoying it.
Absolutely. I think, well, I haven't done that much research into all of Chippenham's results, but I have seen from following them and following you, because obviously we've known each other for a couple of years now, that you're starting to get a reputation of a bit of a penalty king. Is that fair to say? Saving quite a few pens this season and have done in the past as well.
Yeah, I think this season I've saved 3, which have been obviously pretty good. It's not a bad stat, no. But I don't know what it is. I've just naturally, even before my time at Chippenham, I've always just had a good penalty record. So I can't put a finger on it why I'm good at it. Just a natural thing, I guess. But no, it's always good to save a penalty now and again, isn't it? So
absolutely. And in terms of when you do face a penalty, whether it's in a shootout or just in a game, is there a specific thing you do in terms of routine? Is there anything you do to try and put players off, or do you just sort of pick a direction and go?
It's a weird one. Again, I think it's just pure instinct, but I do like to jump up and down, wave my arms about, try and put the strikers off whoever's taking the penalty. But to be fair, this season what has helped is our analysis. Phil Clark, he's been before every game, he gives me some details on penalties that the opposition's had in previous games, and just to give me a little idea on where they might go. But there is an element of freedom in terms of me just going with my instincts, and more times than not, it's paid off. So I can't complain.
No, absolutely. It's whatever works for you is the main thing.
Yeah.
Just keep doing it. But you talked about, obviously, the analysts that you've been working with at the club. And I mentioned to you beforehand that Chippenham's setup is very professional in the way that they sort of run things from the academy up. Obviously, a couple of academy players have come into the first team this year as well, which is great. Is that something that you've been happy to see? Well, because obviously, like you said, the squad's quite small. So do you think that the setup that they've got there lends itself to be successful going forward as well?
Yeah, definitely. I think we've had probably 4 or 5 of the under-23s in the academy coming up and playing with us, whether it's in the league or cup games. So I think that speaks for itself, really, in terms of the quality of coaches we've got in the first team and in the academy as well, because they're bringing in those players through from the academy and they're just slotting into our first team. So I think that speaks volumes of the professionalism at the club.
Yeah, professionalism at the club is amazing, but also like the level of professionals that you've got at the club as well, because you've got Ryan Harley coaching in the academy at the moment, who's obviously played in the Championship and all the way down to where he is now in the Conference South. He's a hell of a player to have on the books as a coach. In terms of other players that you've got at the club, are there any outstanding players at Chippenham this season that you think have made the difference for you?
Well, that's a tough question, to be fair, because I think as a collective, as a group of lads, we've all chipped in different games, whether it's been obviously penalty save, whether it's been goals, whether it's tackles, blocks, whatever it is. As a group, we've all contributed to this season. So I can't really put or single out any specific players. I think this year, as a team, we've just been excellent. And again, that goes to show, because we're a tight knit group. We all get on with each other off the pitch as well. We all dish out banter now and again, and we all do some team nights out and whatnot. But and I think that shows the relationship we've all got with each other, and it shows on the performances on the pitch. And I think that's why we've done so well this season. Yeah,
absolutely. And I guess what we're going into the season, I don't know what the ambition would have been at Chippenham. Was it to push playoffs, or was it more to see how you could go with the target of finishing mid-table, or was that not something that was discussed?
Yeah, so our target that was set from obviously Cookie was top 10 finish was the target for this year as a squad. And obviously as the season's gone on, we've kind of floated in and around the playoffs for the majority of the season. So the longer the season goes on and the more we stay there, the more kind of we're focusing on pushing for playoffs. But as it stands now, we've got 12 cup finals left, and we're trying to push as hard as we can to get into that playoff spot, because that would be a hell of an achievement for us as players and for the club to get into those playoffs.
Yeah, and in terms of like this season, like I said, I've been keeping an eye on your results. Obviously, I live locally to Chippenham, so it's always nice to see that a local club is doing well. In terms of performances this season, are there any games that stand out as the like ones that you think, yeah, that was a really good win or a really good performance where you dug in and got a result, or maybe absolutely blew someone away?
Yeah, there's been a few, to be fair. If I look back on the season so far, I think there's only one team we can honestly say that blew us away, and that was Ebbsfleet when we played them at home. But every other team we've played this season, we've matched them. And whether we've got the win, the draw, if we've unfortunately lost, we've come off the pitch with our heads held high, believing that we've done well. But I think the standout performance has to be, if I'm going to choose one, would be Slough at home. Obviously, smashed them 6-1. And I think it was just goals galore that day, and we were just unstoppable, really. So that was a good day.
Shame not to get a clean sheet on that one, though.
No, shame not to get a clean sheet, but you can't keep a clean sheet on all of them, can you?
No, exactly. Probably knowing you saved a penalty, but conceded a worldie. Yeah. In terms of obviously this season, you've obviously done really well. I think you played Bath obviously in the local derby. Did you lose both of those?
We did, unfortunately, yeah, which was a kick in the teeth.
What sort of went wrong on those days, do you think, then? Because obviously it's surprising that, because you are doing so well this season, you're up near the playoffs. Was it just a case of, coming across that Christmas break, fans coming back in higher numbers into grounds? Was it maybe that had an impact, because Bath's fans always get very invested in that game?
Yeah, I don't really know. I couldn't put a finger on why it went wrong. We went out with a game plan. Unfortunately, for both games, it just didn't come off. Obviously, the games we played in between Bath, I think we beat Hungerford in between Bath 3-0 at their place. So can't put a finger on it really to say why it went wrong. It's just football at the end of the day. Unfortunately, that happens. But you're right in saying the Bath fans like to get stuck into it, because I would think I was getting abused for 90 minutes at their place when we played them. So
I'm sure you absolutely love that, don't you, to be fair?
Yeah, thrive off it. It's brilliant, yeah.
In terms of that, like obviously Bath is one of your former clubs, and you've got a few, obviously because of loans that you've had into sort of the Conference South. And I think you've obviously been to places like, was it Dunstable was one of your first loan moves as well?
Yeah.
How have you found, like, having that many moves and having that many clubs at a younger age? Has that really helped you to sort of step up now when you've got game time every week? Do you feel like you've learned from all those experiences in the past?
Yeah, definitely. I think obviously my time at Swindon, I had several loan spells, like you said, to this level I'm playing at now. And I think obviously where I'm at now, it's made it a lot easier to kind of play at this level. I know obviously I believe in my ability a lot, and I believe I could probably play higher. But where I am at in my career, I just want to be playing every week. I'm at a good standard of football, and like I've said, I've had several loan spells to this level in the north as well, which has probably made it a lot easier for me now.
Absolutely. And I would, to be fair, like people that don't, engage with that level of football as much, they might be fans of the Premier League or, League One, League Two clubs. I would genuinely say that there is some unbelievable talent in the Conference South and the Conference North. Whether that talent is older players who have dropped down or younger players like yourself who have, gone out on loan to those leagues, been released by a league club and then gone into full-time playing down there. But I would definitely say that you could play a lot higher, and I would say that about a number of players in the South. But it's one of those things where you've got to have a good season and get those moves. So hopefully that comes for you over the next couple of years.
Well, we'll wait and see.
Well, obviously you did make your professional debut. You played for Swindon Town's first team. Obviously you started off at Bristol City, is that right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And then moved across to Swindon. What was it like to make your professional debut for a club the size of Swindon Town?
Yeah, so that will be a day that lives long in the memory. It was a crazy couple of weeks or a couple of months, to be fair, because I think it was about March time that season. Our first choice on loan at the time, Lawrence Figgeroux, got injured. So I think it was Ty Balfour went to goal, and I was just sat on the bench as a second-year scholar. And then Ty got injured. This would have been towards the end of March, I reckon, start of April. And then they brought Jake Keenan on loan as an emergency loan. So I was still sat on the bench, and then he got injured before the last two games of the season. We thought they didn't have anything to play for. They obviously thought I'd done pretty well. They thought we'll just chuck the kid in, see how he does, and the rest is history.
Absolutely, yeah. I think, did you end up playing something like 10, 15 games for the first team? Is that about right?
10. Yeah,
10 games for the first
team, yeah.
And obviously, it's a real shame things don't work out all the time at that level of football. But for a club that have been in the Premier League, have played at the highest level, it must have been an amazing experience. Obviously, your debut was quite the one to remember as well.
Yeah, definitely. Again, it'll be a day to remember for that for sure. Obviously, saved the pen on my debut. I think, again, that's probably the most saves I've had to make in a game in my whole career. But everything that day just went right for me. So, other than not winning, obviously, but no, everything else.
A draw away to Rochdale was not a bad result back then as well.
No, tough place to go, Rochdale for sure. But no, it was a good day.
Yeah, and then in terms of, obviously that was an away game that you made your debut. Did you get the chance to play at home in front of the home fans as well?
Yeah, so it was literally the week after that. Our last game of the season was at home to Shrewsbury, and we won 3-0. So that was another good day. Again, that was just a perfect end to what was a great season.
Absolutely. And then obviously, was it another year at Swindon before you then did move on permanently, or were you there for a couple more years after that?
I was there for, I think I played 5 seasons. So it would have been my first season was when I made my debut, and then I was there for another 4. The season after I made my debut, I think I played, I think it was 7 games. And the season after that, I played 1, which would have been my last appearance. And then the rest of it really was just going out on loan to several clubs.
Yeah. And in terms of obviously that transition from professional to semi-professional football, did you find that transition easy? Or was that something that you adapted to quite well? Because obviously there's a lot of attention around players that are let go by professional clubs and how that can have an impact on them professionally, mentally, physically. Yeah. You've obviously settled really well at a very good level. Is that something that you found easy to start with, or was it a real challenge when you first got let go?
I think obviously when I got let go by Swindon, it was during the first lockdown, during the pandemic. And then obviously as the next season started, that's when I signed for Bath. Obviously that was the first stage in dropping down to part-time football, only training 2 evenings a week. And I think looking back on it, I think I've adjusted fairly easily, but it is difficult. It is a difficult transition. I can understand why that is. But I think that season, albeit it wasn't the greatest season for myself, has really put me in good stead for this season and probably why I'm doing so well this year. Yeah,
absolutely. I think that obviously, again, knowing you and knowing that season you had at Bath, it was a frustrating one. Obviously, you spent a lot of time sat on the bench. And in a way, I guess that frustration that built up over that 12 months with Bath is something that's allowed you to go on with Chippenham and now show how good you really are. Because
Yeah.
Like you said, Chippenham doing really well this season, clean sheets, penalty saves. It's all come in full circle.
Yeah, definitely. So, well, I think the whole Bath situation was obviously a difficult one. I wanted to go there and play. It didn't happen, unfortunately, but that's football. But again, that was a short season because it got cut short, didn't it? It was only probably, a 6-month season?
Yeah,
we had or less than that probably because we got into a lockdown again and it was null and void. But no, then obviously coming into Chippenham, we're now hopefully on the back end of the pandemic and we'll get our first full season completed in the first couple of years. So no, it'd be really good to crack on and hopefully finish the season strong.
Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully finishing in those playoff places and giving some of the top teams in the league a push, because there are some teams that it's fair to say financially are a level above Chippenham in terms of, what they're able to put into their playing squad. But again, that's all credit to Chippenham, the manager and yourself for what you've been able to achieve this season. So let's move away from Chippenham for a second and move away from, your footballing career and talk about, your personal influences in your career rather than, the clubs that you've been at. In terms of when you were growing up, who was, a personal footballing hero to you? Was it a goalkeeper or were you more interested in outfield players growing up?
Yeah, no, it's definitely a goalkeeper. So I started off playing in goal when I was probably about 8. So I've been a keeper for a very long time. And that was purely because my old local team, I wanted to be a striker. I think my favourite player was Michael Owen when I was really young. I wanted to be a striker, wasn't good enough, got put in midfield, wasn't good enough, put in defence, wasn't good enough, got chucked in goal, stayed there ever since. So that's
good job you were right in goal then.
Yeah, it was a good job. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here today, would we? But no, I'd probably say my goalkeeping idol has always been Joe Hart. Obviously, I was growing up during his peak when he was at Manchester City, and some of the saves he used to pull off was just crazy. And I'm happy now he's at a big club, and doing well. Obviously, it's been difficult for him the last few years, but it's good to see, and he's always been someone I've kind of looked up to.
Yeah, absolute class goalkeeper, one that I think it's fair to say got an unfair bit of treatment over a couple of years when he went on loan to Torino and West Ham and never really settled. But I think that's very similar to your journey in a way. You had that sort of peak at Swindon initially, and then you've gone through a couple of, well, I say a couple, but 12 to 18 months difficult journey through the pandemic and everything, but have really settled at the club now and you're happy. So you're emulating it in a way. So there's one thing.
Yeah, I'll take that.
In terms of, obviously, he's your hero, but is he up there with the best keepers of all time for you? Who do you see as the best goalkeeper that's ever played the game?
The best keeper to have ever played the game has to be Buffon, doesn't it? He's 44 and he's still playing at the highest level, and he's played over 1,000 games. I think it's the first keeper I saw the other day that he's the first keeper to ever get 1,000 clean sheets or something stupid like that. So yeah, I think you've got to put Buffon down as the greatest of all time. Has to be.
Absolutely. I think that he is definitely in that conversation, if not the clear favourite. That's the only other names that I personally would sort of put in there are I love Iker Casillas, always did when I was growing up.
Yeah, he's definitely up there.
But I definitely agree that Gigi Buffon is top class. In terms of, obviously, players, those are players that you haven't had the pleasure of playing with. In terms of the players you have played with, is there one outstanding talent that you can say, I played with him or I played against him?
This is going to be I'm going to name drop a bit here. So probably not played in a game with, but I had a call up to the England camp when I was under 19s, under 20s. And in that squad, there's some big names in there. So there was Mason Mount, there was Reece James, James Justin, Aaron Ramsdale. So I've all had the pleasure of being able to kick a football about with them. So I have to say them really, because they're obviously all playing in the Premier League now and flying, aren't they? So
that's amazing. I mean, in terms of when you went, was their quality evident then as well?
Yeah, you could see the potential in all of them. Obviously, they're all at the time. Well, Mason Mount was at Chelsea, obviously still there now, and all those players. You just see their class and ability, and you're just looking at it and watching it and thinking they're going to be playing in the Premier League one day for sure. They've got to be. So, and it's showing now, isn't it? So.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what was that experience like for you going away with England at the age of 19, 20 and getting that experience in a training camp?
Yeah, it was surreal. So it was the summer after my first year pro. So I remember Eric Steele, the goalkeeper coach at the time, he came in to watch a few training sessions. And they obviously liked what they saw. I got invited to a few goalkeeper camps. So again, that was with the likes of Aaron Ramsdale, Dean Henderson, Nathan Trott. There was a few keepers on there that were fairly decent. And then obviously after that, again, I must have impressed on there. And then I got called up to the under-19s squad as the third choice. We went to Spain for, I think it was a week or two on a because they had the Euros that summer, which they actually won.
Almost went as well, I guess.
So, yeah, unlucky. Unfortunately, I didn't get to go. I was the third choice, but if one of them was injured, then I would have got flown out. But to just be called up to that and experience a kind of international level of football was a surreal moment and something I'll hold with me for the rest of my life.
That's absolutely amazing. I didn't even realise that, to be fair, coming into this. So that is very, very impressive. So that is amazing. I mean, in terms of obviously this season, you're looking really good with Chippenham. Long term, is the ambition to get back into the Football League and go back full-time pro?
Yeah, so I think probably if I look back on my time at Swindon, I think I overplanned what I wanted to happen with my career, which probably may have been a factor in terms of why I got released. You probably get over frustrated and that. And I think over the last couple of years, I've matured in a way where I've just realised just go with whatever happens. I think obviously long-term goals, I'd love to be back in the pro game. But obviously I'm coaching as well on the side of playing for Chippenham over at the Community Foundation with Swindon Town. And I'm really enjoying that in the minute. So for me, if I'm playing every week and I'm enjoying what I'm doing as well away from football, then long may it continue. Obviously, if a club does come in for me, if and when that happens, then that would be a conversation to be had. But right now, I'm very happy and content with what I'm doing.
That's absolutely perfect, and that's what you want to hear from people, whether they're full-time pros or whether they're playing on a Sunday with their mates. You want to be happy in what you're doing, so that's absolutely perfect. In terms of what you would say then to those young players that you're coaching with the foundation, or anyone that's in, because not everyone's in an academy at top club. There are players in the academy at Chippenham that we've talked about earlier on. What would you sort of say to them if they had the ambition of going to the top level and wanted it to work out, or if it didn't work out, what would you give them as advice?
Yeah, well, if their ambitions were to go to play at the highest level and have a career in the game, I'll just say do everything you can, work as hard as you can. But make sure you're enjoying it, because there's no point working as hard if you're not enjoying it. So if you love playing football, then use that to motivate yourself to do the extra work that you need to improve your game. And obviously, if you're dropping out, if you've done kind of a similar journey to me where you've moved from the professional game to the semi-pro game, then again, it's just about enjoyment, making sure the decision you've made the right one. You're enjoying what you're doing, but you've still got to graft and work hard to make sure that you continue enjoying it.
Absolutely. That's amazing. Thank you. I think it's a great point to just put out there from someone who is, you're playing at a very high level. I think that a lot of people would love to be playing for a club the size of Chippenham in the level that you're playing at. So that ambition is a good thing to be shared, I think. So thank you for that. Yeah. I think we had a couple of questions that I wanted to ask you. One of which was from Alistair, which is one of the co-hosts of the podcast when we do the weekly show. Yeah. He said, in your opinion, what is the best save of all time, and why is it the Higuita scorpion kick?
as good of a save that is, that's not in my top save of all time. I have to say, the Gordon Banks save against Pele. Yeah, it's a very obvious one, but it has to be that one because it's just mental. It's diving backwards. The header's got so much pace and he just flicks it over the bar. It's just defies the laws of gravity, that one for me.
Yeah. I think that is almost like a shame that save happened when it did rather than now, because imagine all the angles that you'd get on that now, whereas back then you get one angle and it's the side that you can't really see it. How much I'd love to see that from behind the goal would be amazing. Yeah.
But perhaps that's probably the reason why it makes it the best save, because you've seen it from one angle which isn't the best and it still looks unreal. So if you imagine looking at it at all angles, just think, Christ, what a save.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's absolutely true. And in terms of obviously your personal self, as I said at the start, we've known each other for a couple of years now, worked together at Bath City. I know that you're a big Marvel fan as well, big gaming fan. How are you finding the MCU since Endgame? Are you still enjoying it as much?
I'm still loving it. I think the journey they're going with it is fantastic. Obviously, they got the new the whole multiverse side of it, and I think it's just crazy what they're doing and what they're planning to do with it. So I'm thoroughly enjoying it.
Yeah, absolutely. Me too. I think that the suggestion that the Marvel Cinematic Universe was doomed is a poor take from those that have said it. Have you seen? I assume you have, but have you seen the new Spider-Man film?
I have more than once as well.
Oh, good man.
Yeah, that
good
was
man.
a very good film. Very nostalgic, to say the least, without spoiling.
Yeah, no spoilers from us, but nostalgic,
Yeah.
but also some great teases for what's coming in the future as well.
Yeah,
and then
definitely.
In terms of gaming, obviously myself and you had long conversations in the past about our love for Nintendo and the Nintendo Switch. I want to ask you what your most anticipated game for the year is this year. Is it Breath of the Wild 2, or does it go wider than that for you?
Because there's a lot coming out this year as well. That's the thing.
There is a lot that's been delayed.
You know what it is? This is getting into my childish nerd now. Is actually the Lego Star Wars game, because obviously I played all of them as a kid, the older ones, and I've been waiting for that because it's been delayed about 20 times, hasn't it? So to finally have a date, which I think is 5th of April, that one comes out. So to finally have a date of that, I'll be pre-ordering that one for sure.
I think we're very much cut from the same cloth in our love for Marvel in games, because I am also in the position where soon I will be pre-ordering the Star Wars Lego game, because, again, nostalgia wins every time.
Exactly.
In terms of other do you have any other consoles, or are you just for the Switch at the minute?
You know, I'm just with the Switch. I think there's so much variety on the Switch that you can play. It's just been, everything's on there for me that I want to play. So I haven't really got. I've looked into a PS5, but I just think with the cost of it is, I'm not going to play it constantly because I've got my Switch. So I'm stuck with that, really.
I think you've also, obviously, I've seen it in person. You've also got the ability to play the Switch on the coach on the way to games. Is that something you still do with Chippenham? Do you still play it on the way?
Do you know what? I actually haven't brought it on the coach yet, but I probably will soon. Because I always keep forgetting it. That's the thing. Like, whenever we've got an away game, making sure I've got my shin pads and my boots. Because if I brought my Switch and not my shin pads, I might get told off.
You'd have to slide your nunchuck things down the
there in the
just
socks,
hope that they don't break.
Yeah,
there'd have to be a decent replacement.
Yeah, I haven't managed to take on the coach.
Fair enough. In terms of like what happens on the coaches with Chippenham, is it a loud coach, or are you a relatively quiet bunch on an away day?
It's in between. I think, again, it depends on results. If we've won, then the coach is buzzing, didn't we? We'll take the speaker on, play some music, and obviously have a lot of banter with each other. But I think on average it's probably in between that. I'd say there's a few that like to fall asleep on the coach, and there's a few that are chatterboxes. So but no, it's a good vibe on the coach, definitely.
Oh, good. And then in terms of, I think, one sort of final question for me about sort of your career and your away trips, whilst we're on that subject, what's the best away ground that you've played at, whether that be the ground itself or the fans or the trip? You know, is there a specific place that holds, is it Rochdale for the fact it was your debut, or would it be somewhere else that you've travelled to as a sub or anything like
that? I've been to a few places as a sub. Probably as a sub, it would be Sheffield United, because obviously brilliant ground as it is, and obviously they're in the Premier League now. But a ground I've actually played in would probably be Charlton Athletics. Is it the Valley? That was the Valley, isn't it? Yeah. That was my last ever league appearance for Swindon there, which was the last game of the season. I think it was 16-17 season, I think it was. And it was quite a funny experience, actually, because I think the fans were not happy with their owner, to say the least. And there was like toilet roll flares getting chucked onto the pitch. And I'm stood in the goal I think I was 18 at the time with all this happening. So that was a bit of a good experience for myself.
Free toilet roll.
I'd probably say that. Yeah, free toilet. I was taking that home.
What was the score on that day away at the
Valley? We lost. I think it was it 2-0, 3-0, something like that. It was the last game of the season. I think we had already been relegated. It was just a case of just finishing off the season, really. But no, from personal night, I thought I played pretty well that game, and obviously played at a decent ground, so I can't complain.
Yeah. Well, it's just another thing you can tick off. I mean, the Valley, again, is a former Premier League ground. Obviously, it's one that has seen some unbelievable players, and it's just amazing to think that, you know, on that CV, you've got the England call-up, you've got trips to Bramall Lane, you've got trips to the Valley, debut, saving an Ian Henderson penalty at Rochdale. It's a pretty good CV for a player that's at Chippenham Town.
Yeah, not bad. Not bad.
It's decent. It's very, very good, mate. The final question before we start to wrap it up. the rest of the Conference South, Vanarama National League South season, you said 12 games to go, 12 cup finals. I don't want you to make a prediction on where you'll finish and how the season goes, but if you were, if you were for the rest of the season, obviously 12 finals, like you said, you were able to get into the playoffs, would you back the club to make that jump under the pressure?
Yeah, I don't see why not. I think if we get into the playoffs at the end of the season, we're in the playoffs, I think we're the team to look out for because we're the underdogs. I think there's no pressure on us to go up. And I think as players as well, we wouldn't feel that pressure because we would have made an achievement as it is. So obviously if we get to the playoffs, I think we've got absolute freedom to just go and give it our best shot. So why not? If we're in the playoffs, why not dream?
Absolutely. You've got the clubs with, like we said, the bigger budgets that have got the pressure, like because Dorking are top, aren't they, at the moment?
Yes.
And then you've got the likes of Dartford who are in there, who have put a lot of money into it, and Havant and Waterlooville who are up there as well. So it'll be
Ebbsfleet are in there as well.
Ebbsfleet, like you said, very good side at the start of the podcast as well. So it would be amazing. If I tell you what, if you do make the playoffs, I will definitely be coming to one of the home games. I'll make sure of it. And we'll do a live show. I'm sure that people would absolutely love that.
Yeah, why not? That sounds good.
Exactly, it'll be amazing. Well, this has been absolutely fantastic, Will. Thank you so much for joining us. That was Will Henry, the first choice goalkeeper over at Chippenham Town. My name is Toby Wellington. I've been from the Flatback 3 podcast. Thank you very much for listening, and we will see you soon.